Welcome, everyone. This is Aja Agajanian with the Cadmus Group, and our presentation today focuses on the Portfolio Manager tool developed by EPA for its Energy Star program. Energy Star is a voluntary partnership offered by EPA, and there's no cost to join Energy Star or to use the Portfolio Manager tool. Becoming an Energy Star partner has many benefits, and it's a proven program based on experiences of all of the partner organizations. Energy Star is a trusted brand that is recognized by most customers, and the Energy Star brand adds legitimacy to organizations that are aligned with it. The Energy Star framework and associated promotional materials can help you communicate your Energy Star management plans and progress and secure support from your employees, management, and customers. The agenda for today's webinar has three main topics. We'll first spend about 10 minutes reviewing background material. And then Mimi Smith will spend about 40 minutes doing a live demonstration of how to customize Portfolio Manager for drinking water and wastewater plants. And then we have a special guest speaker today, Todd Melanson, the water superintendent at the town of Billerica Department of Public Works in Massachusetts. He's going to be speaking about his experience reducing energy costs at Kelmsford Water District. So finally, after that, we will have 10 minutes for questions and answers. Please place any questions you have in the chat during any time in the webinar. So at any point, you can go ahead and put those questions in. We'll gather them together and then address them at the end. First, I want to provide some background information on the potential energy and cost savings for water and wastewater treatment facilities. Energy use in water and wastewater services accounts for 1.8% of national energy consumption, with 1% of that being drinking water and 0.8% of that being wastewater. Water and wastewater services also produce 45 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions per year and are the largest energy consumers of municipal governments. Energy use is expected to increase by 20% in the next 15 years, and some of that increase is because of advanced treatment technologies, such as membrane filtration that can be very energy intensive. Also, you need to add a new treatment process to an existing facility. You may need to add like a pumping step between processes, which will also increase your energy usage. The term clean energy refers to energy sources that do not pollute the atmosphere when used, as opposed to oil and coal, which do pollute the atmosphere. There are many clean energy opportunities at water and wastewater facilities. An energy management program can have three different elements: energy efficiency, energy recovery, and energy generation. These terms are used frequently and often misunderstood, so I want to first explain what they mean. So for energy efficiency, that refers to reducing the energy requirements while achieving the required energy output. In other words, using energy in an optimized manner. When you undertake a project to replace aging infrastructure, you can select new components that are more efficient than older models, or you could choose to replace existing equipment before it reaches its end of its service life in order to install premium efficiency motors, better sensors for dissolved oxygen, or new controls that help you reduce energy usage. For example, a variable frequency drive can be installed to vary the frequency and voltage supplied to the electric motor so that you can optimize operating practices and reduce electrical usage. Energy recovery at wastewater facilities typically refers to recovering heat from wastewater effluent or capturing methane gas and reusing it. On-site clean power generation typically refers to solar or wind energy generation systems that are installed at your water or wastewater facility. Net zero energy is a term for facilities that produce as much power as they consume over the course of a year. One example of a net zero energy wastewater facility is the wastewater treatment plant in Gresham, Oregon. They reduced monthly energy bills from $50,000 to zero over the course of 10 years, from 2005 to 2015. First, they installed a biogas generator in 2005 and then solar panels in 2010. In 2012, they started accepting restaurant waste with high levels of fats, oil, and grease, and this doubled the production of biogas. The utility manager said their approach could be easily replicated by other systems, and there was no secret formula. The Energy Star program provides multiple pathways for you to either engage in energy efficiency efforts for the first time or improve your existing energy management program. You may want to use Energy Star materials to improve how you communicate with customers or to better track your progress in meeting internal goals. To get to the Energy Star website, you can use this link or just type energystar.gov. And a reminder, these slides will be sent to you after the webinar, so you'll have all these links. This slide illustrates how the recommended approach to energy management is an iterative approach. The first step is to get senior management in your utility to make a commitment to the program. You can't successfully implement an energy management program without management support for staffing and resources. And the next step is where Portfolio Manager comes into play, to establish a baseline of energy usage for your current operations through a process called benchmarking. In this step, you will also identify your goals for energy efficiency, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, or energy cost savings. Then, after you have identified your goals, you need to develop an action plan which outlines the approach to meet each goal. After you implement the action plan and start meeting your goals, remember to take the time to recognize staff that have been instrumental in achieving those goals. Then, after your initial action plan has been put into place, it's time to reassess your goals and perhaps develop new goals and start the process again. The benchmarking step to assess performance and set goals is where a Portfolio Manager tool comes in. The Portfolio Manager tool is an energy benchmarking tool. Benchmarking involves monitoring or measuring various parameters to establish your current conditions. For an energy management program, the monitoring parameter or metric may be your current electrical usage or the dollar amount of your electric bill. By establishing the current condition, you can then compare or benchmark your improvements in energy management by continuing to monitor electrical usage or the dollar amount of your electric bill or any other metric. Many studies have shown that benchmarking and tracking energy usage metrics are an important part of your energy management program. The two examples shown on this slide illustrate this point based on an EPA analysis of more than 30,000 buildings that tracked energy consumption in Portfolio Manager from 2008 to 2011. The graph on top shows a 7% decrease in energy use from 2008 to 2011. The graph on bottom shows a 6-point increase in the Energy Star performance score generated by Portfolio Manager for the same time period, 2008 to 2011. These types of graphs can be used to communicate with your customers or your governing board to gain support for new capital improvement projects designed to further reduce energy costs. Also, when your staff see how their hard work and ideas translate into cost savings, they will feel empowered and committed to future improvement efforts. The Portfolio Manager tool can be used to track energy and water usage over time. Plus, it can help you manage and track various waste streams and cost information. Similar to any other tool where you need to input data, the tool is only as valuable as the quality of your data. It is important to take the time and necessary steps to ensure that you are using accurate and reliable data. This slide states that Portfolio Manager can be used to apply for Energy Star certification. But please note that this certification is only available for buildings and not for water and wastewater treatment plants. You may be wondering why wastewater treatment plants are not eligible for certification. When EPA analyzed the survey data that they are currently using for the regression model to develop the performance scores, EPA felt that additional drivers of energy use may not be fully captured by the data. EPA has determined that the model as is a very important first step for the industry, providing a fixed metric that can help you assess performance over time while normalizing for key changes in weather and operational conditions, like influent and effluent BOD changes. Portfolio Manager offers users hundreds of different metrics, so you can select metrics that are most meaningful to your facilities and your goals. For example, in the category of greenhouse gas emissions, there are several metrics available, including direct and indirect emissions, total emissions, and avoided emissions. Mimi Smith will be showing you a brief overview later in the presentation, how to use custom reports to summarize trends with various metrics that might be most useful to water and wastewater treatment plant operators and managers. For wastewater utilities, an energy performance score system is available in Portfolio Manager. After you enter data into the tool, such as energy use and flow and basic data about your facility, you will get a performance score between 1 and 100. The scoring system for wastewater plants is based on national survey data collected under a Water Research Foundation project. Survey data were collected from statistically representative sample of wastewater treatment plants of various sizes, types, and locations across the country. That survey data included information on flow volumes, treatment processes, influent and effluent quality, using biochemical oxygen demand, as well as monthly energy use and cost data. After receiving the survey data back from wastewater utilities, the project team developed a regression model to predict the energy use based on flow rate. The ratio of your specific energy use per flow rate to the predicted energy use per flow rate from the regression model gives you the performance score. So this approach is similar to the approach used to develop the Energy Star performance scoring system for buildings. So the performance score is on a scale of 1 to 100. If your plant achieves an energy performance score of 50, it performs better than 50% of all similar wastewater facilities nationwide. If you achieve an energy performance score of 75, your plant is performing better than 75% of similar wastewater facilities nationwide. EPA considered developing a performance score for drinking water systems, but there were too many variables in the original survey data, particularly related to drinking water distribution systems. Instead, users can compare their energy use per average daily flow to a national median value. There are many ways that you can assess energy performance using Portfolio Manager. Here's a list of some of the common performance metrics that are available in the tool. An important one is EUI, or energy use intensity. For water and wastewater treatment plants, this is energy used per unit of flow treated. Some programs measure energy use per pound of BOD removed. That's another common one. But when the survey was done to set up the score, research found that energy use correlated more with flow in that data. So this and the next slide mention a couple of other performance metrics, and you'll receive a copy of the slides at the end. So I'm not going to read through all the different performance metrics. Portfolio Manager data gathered from 2008 through 2013 of 698 wastewater treatment plants benchmarking trends in energy and water consumption showed a median energy use intensity, or EUI, of 10 kBTUs per gallon per day. The data ranged from less than 5 EUI to over 50 EUI. The trend showed that the energy consumption is correlated with the magnitude and type of pollutant load and the treatment methods and technologies used. For example, plants that have more influent BOD use more energy on average. Also, plants that have nutrient removal have, on average, a higher EUI. More information from that data can be found if you follow the link on this slide. And a reminder, the slides will be sent to you after the webinar. Portfolio Manager has several reporting templates to help with energy tracking at water and wastewater facilities. You can select a template based on who your audience would be for the report. They have a summary report for plant managers and mayors, which gives them an overview of the energy use, costs, and greenhouse gas emissions and progress towards your goals. There's a standard report that provides detail on energy use intensity by fuel type and national average values to help operators identify energy efficiency opportunities. And there's an evaluation report, which includes facility data and information about energy projects to help states and associations evaluate energy use at multiple plants, identify opportunities for improvement, and recognize achievements. Now we're ready to move on to the live demonstration on customizing Portfolio Manager for treatment plant metrics. I will hand the screen over to my associate, Mimi Smith with ICF, to walk you through the demonstration.
Great, thank you, Audra. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are actually going to start by jumping right into the demo. So we'll step away from the slides here, and I'm going to send the website link that I'm going to be starting on today. We're going to start from the Energy Star ma.gov/building/benchmark page. This is a great home base to start from if you don't already have the portfolio manager login saved. But we'll start from here and then I will get things going. Okay. Okay. There's that screen. Could someone just confirm they can see this for me?
It looks
Yeah.
good to me.
Okay, great. Thank you both. Okay, so from here, this is our Energy Star benchmarking buildings page, and I'm going to scroll down slightly just to get a better view here. So you'll notice over on the left-hand side, there's lots of other resources here for you. So if you aren't familiar with this website, I highly recommend taking a look around, especially looking through a lot of the information on this page, but then also calling your attention to a few of these other tabs over here as well. We have a lot of different training resources linked in this training tab here, like how-to documents, demo videos, and other recorded webinars, which can be pretty helpful for getting started in Portfolio Manager. But for the sake of today's presentation, we're actually going to go over to the right-hand side of the screen here, where you see the Energy Star Portfolio Manager login screen. And from here, you can log directly in, or you can create your account. Now, today does assume that you already have a Portfolio Manager account, but I will click into this to show you what those prompts will look like. Okay, so this is the create your account screen. And basically you will enter in a username, password, enter in some information about yourself as well as your organization. And then you'll just need to select whether you would like your account to be searchable by other Portfolio Manager users. You'll confirm your identity and then you'll select this Create My Account button at the bottom. Great. So like I said, we're going to use the trainings account for today. So we won't go through these exact steps. So I'm going to click back over here. And then we are going to log in using our username and password from this screen right here. So I'm going to select this login. Okay, so once you have logged into your Portfolio Manager account, I'm going to zoom in slightly here. I'm going to minimize this for myself. Okay. All right, so once you're here, you'll be brought to the My Portfolio tab. As you'll see up here, there are 4 tabs which help you to navigate the tool. So there's the Sharing tab, the Reporting tab, and the Recognition tab. And these are all really helpful for various tasks and capabilities within the tool. If you're interested in learning about more of these other tabs, we won't spend a ton of time in them today, but if you are interested, we do have our monthly Portfolio Manager series, which is Portfolio Manager 101, 201, and 301. And those are really a great opportunity to attend and learn more about just the introductory capabilities and functions of the tool. So I'd like to plug those for folks. But for today, we're going to get started with actually adding a property. So you'll notice that this is where any properties that you might have already added to your account will be shown on the dashboard. And we're going to revisit this dashboard at the end here to customize these metrics as you can see listed here. But we will first go through the steps of adding our property. So in the top left-hand side of the screen, you will see this blue Add a Property button, and we will select that. Okay, so you will be brought to the Set Up a Property, Let's Get Started page. And this is where you'll select your property type, the property number of buildings, and then the construction status as well. So we'll select this drop-down arrow here to select the type, and we're going to scroll down to the utility section. And this is where you will find wastewater treatment plant. Now, you'll also notice we do have drinking water treatment plants as well as energy power stations in this section here as well. So if you need to benchmark those, we'll select this here. I will also point out that there are over 85 different property types you can choose from. So of course, today we're going through the wastewater treatment plant, but if you are looking to benchmark any other property types, you can look through the list there and see all the other types we have available. Scrolling down to the next section here, we'll enter in the number of physical buildings that are a part of the property. The options are none, one, and more than one. So today, to keep it simple, we'll select one. And then the construction status will be the last section here. So the options are existing, design, or test property. And most of you will likely be existing, but you can also enter in design projects. So this is pre-construction, your property's in the conceptual phases, and we actually also have a recognition program for designing to earn the Energy Star. And so if you're interested in that, that is an option here. And then the last option, which we will use today, is the test property. And then we're just going to leave this first option selected. I would like to enter data as if this property is in operation. And then we'll select this blue, get started at the bottom. Okay, we'll then be brought to the Set Up a Property Basic Information page, and this is where we will just enter in all of the basic information to create a property record. Enter in address. Okay. Now, you'll also notice that some of these terms here are highlighted blue. And this is because Portfolio Manager has specific definitions of each of these terms. And so, for example, gross floor area, you can hover your cursor over the text you are looking to find the definition, and it will give you a brief definition. But if you click into it, you will be brought to the Portfolio Manager glossary, and this is where you'll find in-depth definitions of how the tool defines these terms and how they are measured, how they are used within the tool. So I highly recommend looking into those definitions and utilizing that resource as you are getting started with your property record. I'm going to click us back here. And then I'll also call your attention to this option right here that says temporary value. Now, when you're setting up your property in Portfolio Manager, if you don't have all the information right in front of you and you just are getting started to see how the tool works, you can enter in temporary and estimate values, which you'll see a little bit later here. And these are options where you can just select this box, letting the tool know this is not an exact value, it's temporary. But if you are looking to submit any of this information or apply for any recognition programs, you will need to go back in and edit this information to ensure that everything you are entering in and submitting is accurate and verified. So for the sake of today, I'm going to deselect this here and we'll scroll down. This section right here, standard IDs, is only for when and if you are responding to state and local government benchmarking laws. So these will be provided by your city, your county, your state, and you'll receive all that information directly from them. But this is where you would enter in that information. And then this last box right here, do any of these apply? So for wastewater treatment plants, these are the only two questions they will ask, whether your property has parking areas or administrative office space. So we'll select yes to both of those. And then we will select this blue button here, continue. Okay, so now this part here is the section where we will enter in the use details. Now, the use details are what Portfolio Manager uses to actually calculate the metrics for your property. So you'll need to enter in all of the use details for each of the use types included in your building. So the first one we have here is the administrative office space, or sorry, is the actual wastewater treatment plant that we've entered in here. So we'll show you that one. And then we also have the parking space entered in at the bottom here as well. Okay, so this gross floor area is the area we already entered when we first set up the property. We'll enter in our design flow rate, average, okay. And you'll notice that these property use details here indicated by the blue star are used to calculate the Energy Star score. So if your property is eligible, it can receive an Energy Star score as a wastewater treatment plant. And so you'll want to make sure you enter in all of these use details to be able to generate that score, as well as all of the other metrics the tool will generate for you. And then this column over here, all the way on the right, you'll see is another option for temporary values. Again, the same thing that we discussed earlier. If you don't have these exact numbers, you can enter them into as temporary, just knowing that you'll want to edit those details later on. Okay, scrolling down here to the parking use, we'll enter in any parking we have associated with our property. We'll just keep it simple today and say we have an open parking lot, and then the other options are partially enclosed garage or completely enclosed. And so you'll enter in those values as well. And once you've finished all of that, you can select this blue button at the bottom here that says Add Property. Okay, great. So Portfolio Manager will add these really great helpful banners, which will let you know that you are on the right track. So it's letting us know that we have successfully created our property record, and now we just need to enter in our actual energy use. So scrolling down here slightly, you'll see that we now have a new set of tabs for the property level. So we have the summary tab, which once we enter in our energy data, we'll get some metrics generated here. We have the details tab, we have the energy, water, and waste and materials meters tabs, and then there's also a goals and design tab. So the first tab that we'll click into is the details tab. Okay, so now you can see the basic information included in our property here, and then you'll also see the property uses and use details included as well. Now, if you'd like to look at any of the use details you entered in, you can select this gray arrow, and it will expand all of that information that you entered in. And then if you need to edit any of the information, like we mentioned, if you entered it in temporary value and you need to change it, under the action column, you can select the drop-down I want to, and then there's an option to edit the use details right here. You can also delete the use if need be, but of course, please proceed with caution with doing that because there's no undo option. Okay, so we will minimize that there, and then we'll scroll down to the bottom here where you will see we now have the option to enter in a plant flow meter. And because you entered in a wastewater treatment plant as the property type, this option to add a flow meter is automatically added to this details tab right here. And so again, we'll just show you for orientation's sake, we are on the details tab. And if you scroll about halfway down the page, you'll see this option for adding a flow meter. And that is what we are going to go through at this point now. So you'll notice that there's this small blue button, add a meter here, right across from the plant flow meter section. And so you'll select that right there. And then you'll be brought to the getting started setting up your meter page. And the first thing you'll do is enter how many meters. And we'll just go with one for today. And then depending on how many different use types you entered in as a part of your property. So if you have multiple buildings or other plants associated with this one property, you can select this drop-down arrow here to select this associated use. But of course, for today, we just have the one use, so we'll leave it as selected. And then we'll select this blue Get Started button at the bottom. Okay, so then you'll be brought to the About Your Meters page, and this is where you can enter in the units for your meters, the date the meter became active or inactive, and then you can also enter in custom meter ID names. So the first thing we'll do here is enter in the units, and the options are cubic meters per day or millions of gallons per day. So we're just going to go with gallons, and then the date the meter became active here. So we're going to go with a year ago. And then you can enter in custom meter ID names, or values. So if you'd like to distinguish between the multiple meters you may have as a part of your property, this is a great option to do that. This way, when you're entering bills or when you're just looking through your property record, you'll be able to easily distinguish between various meters if you do have several of them. Once you have entered in all of that information here, we can then click this blue Create Meters button at the bottom. Okay, so now that we are here, let's see. Okay, so now that we have done this here, you will be actually entering in the data that you'll receive from your utility bills. So the process we're walking through today is a manual entry process, but there's also an option to upload data via spreadsheet uploads, and this is something we go over in our Portfolio Manager 201 session. So if you are interested in learning how to do that, you can definitely attend that session later this month. But today we will be walking through the manual steps for this process. So the first thing we will do is click to add an entry, and we will select our start date. We're just going to select a start date that aligns with the start date of the meter we input. And then once you select a start date, it will auto-populate the end date. And then you can select this Add Another Entry plus sign button right here to auto-populate the rest of your dates. Now, Portfolio Manager requires 12 months of complete calendar data in order to generate metrics. So if you have a utility that bills from the middle of the month, so for example, December 15th to January 15th, then you'll want to include a 13th month of data so that Portfolio Manager can recognize it as a complete calendar year. However, if your utility does bill from the first of the month, then you'll just need to make sure you have from whatever month you start at to the month of the following year to allow for the tool to calculate your metrics. So once we've entered that in, we'll see if that works. We will enter in our usage. Now, of course, I am making up these metrics today, but you will use the values you receive on your utility bills. Okay. And then the other columns listed right here, total cost and estimation. So total cost is not required by the tool. You can enter it, and we highly urge folks to do so, as it can be really helpful to see cost patterns change over time along with your usage patterns change. So that is an option for you. Again, it is not required by the tool, but a great option. And then the estimation column, this is similar to the temporary values. So again, if these values that you're entering in are not accurate, or you're just learning how the tool works, you can definitely enter these in as an estimation. And you just do that by selecting these boxes right here. Okay, so once you've entered in your 12 complete calendar months, we'll scroll onto the bottom here and select the Save Bills option. And then we'll get that green banner at the top letting us know we were successful, and we can click back into our property to be brought back to the Summary tab. Alrighty, so now if we select the Details tab here, we can scroll down and we can see that our flow meter has now been added to the plant flow meter section. And to edit any of this information or to add new bills or anything like that, there's two options. So you'll see right here in this box on the left-hand side, the meter summary. You can enter in new bills right here by selecting this button. You can also, directing your attention back to just the plant flow rate meter section here, you can just select right into your meter name, and that will bring you back to the page that we were just on. And to enter any new information manually, you can just click this Add Another Entry button, and it will auto-populate for you to add more data. Now, we're not going to do that at this moment, so we'll just click back. Okay, now the next meter we are going to add for the property are going to be our energy meters. So we're going to click into the Energy tab. And it will be a very similar process. So from here, we will select this blue Add a Meter button. And then we'll select the sources of our property's energy. So today we'll go with electric purchased from the grid. And then we'll scroll down to this Get Started button at the bottom here. Now this will be very similar to the last one. So we'll want to enter in our units, the date the meter became active, and then scrolling over, you can also see options to enter in the custom meter IDs as well. Once we'd entered all of that information, we will select the Create Meters button right here. And then on this page, you'll want to select the meters to include in your metrics. So for any energy meters that you add to your property, you'll want to make sure that they account for the total energy consumption of your property. You'll select that option there, and then you'll scroll down to Apply Selections. All right. And then once that has been added, we will go through the process of manually entering in the actual data. And then we'll auto-populate our dates. And then we'll enter in our usage. Alrighty, and then you'll also see the other options here to add in total cost, select whether they are estimations, and then you can also enter in demand and demand cost if you would like to see those patterns over time as well. Okay, and then we'll scroll down to the bottom here and select the Save Bills. And now that that has been saved, we can click back into our property. Okay, so now we will be able to see on the Summary tab here, we now have some metrics generated. Now, this will be we'll be customizing these metrics in just a moment here, but now you'll at least see we have some options noted right here. So we'll click into the Details tab just to give you an overview of what we've just done again. So again, if you do need to edit any of the basic information or the property use or use details, you can do all of that from the Details tab right here. And then you can also, scrolling down about halfway down the page, you can edit your flow meter via the Details tab also. Scrolling back to the top, we can click into the Energy tab where we just entered in that meter. Now, if you'd like to see this chart here, we can refresh that and it will auto-populate with some data points there. So that can be a helpful graphic to see your energy use over time. And then scrolling down to our meters section, if you ever need to edit your electric meters, or if you have natural gas or diesel or fuel oil associated with your property, those will be found right here. And you can just click into that meter name to edit any information. Now, scrolling back to the top here, we will go back to our Summary tab, and we will start customizing some of the metrics that you can see in the property level. And then we'll head back out to the dashboard, to the portfolio level to be able to, and then I'll walk through steps to customize those metrics as well. So the first options here is up in this right-hand corner, you'll see this displayed metric, which is auto-populated by the tool. And you can change this to whatever you'd like to highlight in this top corner. So we can select this change metric right here. And there are a couple options to display. You can display the Energy Star score if your property is eligible. And then you can also display any of these options here. So we're going to select water and wastewater site EUI and then scroll down and select metric. And then you'll see those values displayed right here. Now, scrolling down to the next metrics you can change is this metrics summary section. So right here, you can select change metrics as well. Now, there are over hundreds of different metrics to show here. You can only choose 7. So the first thing we will do is deselect a couple of these. And then, because this isn't showing, we will go on the left-hand side here to waste performance. And then we can scroll down. Oh, sorry, folks, it's not the right one there. Energy performance metrics. And then we will scroll down to the bottom here and you will see the various water and wastewater metrics to display. So we will select site and source EUI, weather normalized site and source EUI, and then we'll also show the electric intensity. And then let's also do, how many have we selected? 5. So we can do the water and wastewater national medians for site and source EUI as well. And then once we have selected those, we will apply and you'll see those updated right here. So I have put in some very, very, very conservative usage for our test property today. So these values are 0. However, if they were not available, you would see them listed right here as not available. You can also change these timelines. So it will do an automatic comparison based on whatever you have already entered into the tool. But if you have a couple of years worth of data entered in, you can change the time periods by selecting this option. And you can go with the baseline period versus the current. As you'll notice here, we only have 2 options available, so that's all it's showing. But you are, depending on what you have within your property, you can enter in and change those time periods. Okay, so now we've customized those metrics within the property level. So our last agenda item here will be customizing the metrics in the portfolio level. So to do that, we will select this My Portfolio tab, which will bring us back to our dashboard. Now, the first thing, we will start by looking at this dashboard section, and you'll notice that all of the properties are listed right here. Now, the first thing we can do is create a view so that you only see your wastewater treatment plants within this dashboard. So we will select this Add, Edit, and Delete Views button. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you'll see we already have a couple of views listed here, but we will create a new view for today. And we'll want to come up with a name. You'll want to select the time frame. I think we'll do the baseline energy year. And then you'll want to select the metrics to include in this view. Now, you can only include 3 metrics here. So again, it will be the same metrics we just saw earlier. So we will go to energy performance and then scroll down to see the water and wastewater options. So we're going to do site and source EUI and then weather normalized site EUI as well. And then we will select this apply selections right here. Now, once we've set all of those criteria, we can now select the Save View. And you can also set it to be the default view. So if you'd like to do that, you can select this, your most recent view that you've created, select as the default, and then select Save Default View. Now, the other thing that we will want to do here is add and edit your groups. So you can now see that this water and wastewater site, source, and weather normalized site EUI are all listed here. But for me, we have to scroll down a bit to be able to see these wastewater treatment plants. So what we'll do to reduce all of the properties we have is add a different group. So we'll select this add, edit, and delete groups. And we will create a new group by selecting this button right here. And this is pretty straightforward. We're going to call this one wastewater demo. And then we'll want to select the properties to be able to see in this group. So we'll select all of our treatment plants. Go. We'll apply the selection. And then it'll ask us if we want this group as the default. For the sake of today, we'll select it as the default. And then we'll select Create. Now, this is a much more helpful view if you just want to be looking at your treatment plants, and we can refresh these metrics here to be able to generate those. It sometimes will take a little bit of time. We'll see if it generates, there we go. But the less properties you have in your account, it will generate faster. So now you'll be able to see we have our treatment plants only shown in the dashboard, and then we've also customized the metrics shown by the actual columns themselves. And I think that actually ends our demo portion for today. So I will stop the screen share here. And then I believe we have a few slides here for me to go through as well. So let me flash forward to the end. And like Audra has mentioned, you will receive these slides, so you'll be able to look through these and see all these steps outlined as well. But that actually looks like it concludes my section for today. So I will turn things over to our guest speaker for today. Audra, I'll turn things back to you to introduce, and then we'll get started from there.
Thanks. Thanks, Mimi. And a quick reminder that we are gathering questions in the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to place them in there at any time. And yeah, So the slides that she showed you are screenshots from the Portfolio Manager program, and it's content that she covered in the live demo. So we put them in the slides for your reference. If you need to go through anything that she went through, you can reference those. And so now we'll move on to Todd Mellinson, the water superintendent from the town of Billerica Public Works Department in Massachusetts. He'll be presenting on some energy cost savings he did with the Kelmsford Water District. And Todd, I am ready when you are, and I'll move forward with the slides for you. Todd, I think your sound is still off.
It is.
There you go.
All right, let's start again. As been said, my name's Todd Melanson. I'm the Billerica Water Superintendent. I was the Environmental Compliance Manager for about 17 years with the Chelmsford Water District. One of the first things I started to do was get involved with energy management. I did some work with a group that was put together, wastewater operators, drinking water operators, the utilities, and the regulators to try and get us all to understand everything. And the first thing they taught us was to understand your bill, get to know the cycle in which your energy supplier processes your payment, the times of it, and things like that. I did a lot of bill calculations, making sure I understood how they were calculating the final number, and then reviewing both those together. For me, it was important because we had a aggregation, but also we had, as I got into this, we ended up building the very first municipally owned ground mount solar array in New England. It was about a 0.8 megawatt DC, about 550 to 600 AC generation. And so and then we also did a net metering arrangement. And those can all, at one point, it looked like we were double paying because our processes of our credits weren't taking place. The other thing was review your meter readings, get to know how to read your electric or your gas meter. When they turned our array on, it required a net metering meter so that the power could go both ways. And they put the wrong multiplier on it. So it looked like we're using 3 times the energy we normally did after the array was solved, and we couldn't find it. Finding out why is they added the wrong multiplier. Next slide, please. Second step, what we started looking at was what you can do for energy aggregation. It's when a community, a group of residents, companies, or a community as a whole get together and bid out to get a contract for them to be the deliverer of the whatever energy you are purchasing. In Massachusetts, there's the procurement law, Chapter 30B, and it just says this chapter shall not apply to energy aggregation contracts into public subdivisions of the Commonwealth for energy or energy-related services arranged or negotiated by the subdivision on behalf of its residents. Basically, it means you're exempt from procurement. You should do best business practices, get quotes, whatever have to, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a formal bid. And then you have to understand the way these energy brokering firms work and engage in them, build relationships with them. So when we actually own the array outright, so we ended up selling our credits. Now, these credits were mass class ones, which are significantly lower than the solar carve out because we got the array for free from the ARA, it was American Recovery and Rebuild Act. And that trying to negotiate prices with them to get the best prices as the market would bear required having relationships. So those are the biggest points I got out of that step. Next slide, please. Now you're going to have to determine, if you're going to have alternate energy, what's the best for you. Chelmsford doesn't really reside in a place where there is sufficient wind consistently. There are mile per hour targets that they want you to meet before they'll let you do it. I had nothing I wasn't going to do. I actually looked at putting micro turbines in some of my water mains. The only problem with that is I almost would have had to put a pump in to make it work correctly. So solar was kind of our only option. And I had a history with solar. My father was the vice president, one of the very first solar companies in the United States. I think upon my first visit to Crooked Spring, it was the ideal place. It was just, I think we were exceptionally lucky. Then you start looking to, before you get to a big project, you need some success, and you look for the low hanging fruit, upgrades, LED lights. One of the biggest things we saved in our garages was direct heating and not air heat. So you're direct heating the surfaces of things and not necessarily the air. So when you open the door and the trucks go out and it sucks that heat out, it doesn't take as long to heat up. And we saw a huge savings on natural gas. So once you get some of those smaller victories, then you can go and look towards doing something bigger. And then adding on to aggregation. And the biggest thing that was hammered into me out of this process was record everything, calculate it out, see where you're winning or you're losing, and evaluate what you need to change, and then use that as your tool to continue on other projects. And I think that's where the portfolio, I kind of built mine on Excel out of hand, and I really don't think anybody else wants to do that because it became the mother of all Excel spreadsheets. Next slide, please. You got to have a plan. You got to put it together. You got to look at what you can, starting, start looking at what you can and can't do. You're looking for low hanging fruit to give you those early, easy successes. Look at grants. There are incentives and rebates. The biggest thing you can do is just start recording your energy usage and understanding whatever unique patterns you have. One of the things I would say is try and split out your meters. There were a couple places where I had the office, the garage, and 3 separate wells all tied into the same electrical meter. They had to wait until I had some successes before they would let me put up the money to put through and individually meter each different site. And that tells you how well they're working and things like that. So, and that's going to be the beginning of your database. You need to keep your leadership well informed and educated on what you're doing, why, and then the public, because that's where you're going to have to get your support. A district is a separate municipal entity from the town. So a lot of the times when there were energy projects, those seemed to be when we would get the largest turnout because people wanted to make sure we weren't wasting money. They were okay spending money on drinking, making sure we had clean drinking water, doing the maintenance and stuff. But this sort of stuff, you really needed to prove that you could do what you say. And then keep reevaluating. What's your next step? What's your next investment going to be? Show the pluses and minuses. Some of the things and so you're continually reevaluating and reassessing. Beyond just looking at whether your program's working, look to make sure you're not, over pumping a well or a pump station, or why are you doing that? And those are some of the things that came out of this plan for me. Next slide. Started in '08, like I said, or I didn't say, but '08 was about the time we started looking at this because energy prices were bouncing all over the place. UMass Lowell hosted the Water and Energy Leadership Roundtable. That's when I started really looking at our bills, the pricing, and our usage. Started seeing energy savings with the retrofits to the lighting. That was my first low hanging fruit. But I looked at it because we got it for free from National Grid. I calculated that savings, and then I started looking at where the lighting was used and tracking that sort of savings. Gave me the footing to go on and do other projects. The solar was the biggest one. I locked into. I think I was exceptionally lucky with my timing on that. And then really and truly, I really think people need to look at, if they have them, education institutions, secondaries, in your area. There is always some kid looking for a project to write his thesis. Part of why I was so lucky with the solar is I wanted to do it on our own and was working toward that end when ARA came. And we were asked, I didn't submit, but I had renewable energy engineer's thesis, and it was putting solar there. He did all the placing, the light testing, everything you could imagine, and it was in his thesis. But he wasn't an engineer, so he couldn't stamp it. And DEP was very specific; it had to be shovel ready, which meant having a PE stamp. And we got called later asking why our project wasn't approved or wasn't submitted. And I said, well, I don't have an energy stamp in it. And they said ours were the furthest along and it got included. So like I said, I was very lucky. But if you have a institution in and around you, reach out, develop a relationship with them, because you're not going to believe how much help they can be. And next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, nope, sorry. Nope, back one. I'm sorry. So we took the ARA. We were one of 15 projects. I was lead on going through the bills, the bids, or one of the persons. It started online October 27th, 2013. Had to track its production, the reduction to each individual account. As I said, National Grid had a metering mistake. That was a $12,000 mistake. We reduced the energy at Cricket Spring by about 65%. And Cricket Spring treatment plant actually is the treatment plant, Cricket Spring 1 and 2, and what we call Meadowbrook 3, which was a 4-well gravel packed well field. And it was the largest producer of water in the district. It averaged out to probably be about a 45%. Everything we did, I think it ended up being 45 to 50% savings from what we were doing before. Allowed us to do a net metering. So we pay, for every dollar that we paid 80 cents on the dollar. We did, I brokered the energy credit sales, the rec credits, and I was the team leader on doing the aggregation and of both electric and natural gas contracts, and we were doing 3-year contracts. Next slide, please. So this just gives you a measurement of our success. I believe this was after about 8 years of work. The total savings, individual savings, down the bottom here. The annual savings per line was here, but totaling all up, we on the average saved about $350,000 a year doing this. This allowed us to put a lot more money into doing our maintenance, purchasing some other things. One year we were one of the first in the area to own our first hydro excavator. and some other things. So, I mean, these are real money items that you can do. Now, the landscape has changed a little bit in the way they do solar savings, net metering, and all that sort of things. But these are some of the things, if you keep on it, it really can help you. And I'm very proud of the work I did there. I believe that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Todd. And Neha, I think we're good to go on to questions. There's some other slides here that people can reference in the deck that they'll receive, but for now I'll hand it off to Neha.
All right, sounds good. Thank you all for that incredible presentation. So far, we just have one question. So just a reminder that if you have any questions, it's not too late to send them in the chat. But to get started, our first one is, I didn't see an effluent meter option, only the influent meter that was created in the demo. Are wastewater treatment facilities not required to have both meter types?
Let me look at that question one sec here. No. So yeah, so the answer to your question there is that there is only the influent meter option right now for flow meters in Portfolio Manager. And so that is the only meter you would have to add for flow meters. Of course, if you're adding any other sources of energy or usage to your property, then you can add those. But the answer to your question is yes.
All right, we can wait a few more minutes to see if anything else rolls into the chat, but that is all for right now. We got another question. This is for Todd. Todd, how did you begin the process of getting sub-meters installed and identifying where they were most critical?
For me, my district was or is a groundwater system. So the majority of my energy use is going to be on pushing water one place to another. And I don't have many auxiliary places. So separating the wells from like the treatment plant or anywhere else where they were grouped as a single entity was very easy for me to identify of where I needed to. Everything else was pretty much already isolated. But for me, I sold it as, you can match a pump curve. There are calculations you can do to make sure you're using your well at its optimum speed, energy usage, and thing like that. And that was how I sold splitting it off. But prioritizing the wells for me was an easy decision because I don't have a lot of extraneous sites that used energy that I would need to separate. Hello?
Yes, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. So that is all that we have for you all today. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Audra, Todd, and Mimi for presenting. When you exit the webinar, a survey will pop up on your screen, so any and all feedback is incredibly appreciated. But that is all from us, so have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Everyone.